Well, it looks like there's a final reckoning of this family hierarch war. Let's see how this goes. In that room, Jacques was silently and patiently waiting for the other two candidates to arrive, to appear even, much as Honglu predicted. It was unclear to Dante how long he had been waiting for them in there, as he didn't appear even remotely tired or angry, only regarding them in that same collective silence that they remember seeing from the day they first met. Jiahuan thought it nice of them to bring them all together, believing that their intent was quite obvious. Gathering them all in there. They're telling them to rid themselves of the trouble finding each other and determine who comes first among them. Jiaqiu demanded that he still his insolent tongue. He didn't possess even an inkling of the path ahead. Jiaqiu made it clear that he understood Jiahuan as one that took the name for a better purpose than to assume such a boorish display of vanity. The tension was palpable. None were making the first move. Dante observed that there was Jiahuan, who was always hostile towards Honglu and the rest of them. Then there was Jiaqiu, whose innermost thoughts they couldn't hope to grasp, but most likely harbored much anger towards Honglu and carried the torch of vengeance for his family's destruction. Ishmael whispered that she saw something written up there. Dante saw a question written in large red letters. State the virtue of the family hierarch. The host then spoke that now they had the top 3 candidates all gathered in that room. Are they about to find out the winner of the game right there? Right now? Right in that room? With the gravity of that particular situation clearly communicated, she suggests that they try something completely different this time. Different, but most appropriate for the ceremony of selecting the next hierarch of Hongguan. Behold the wall and ponder the question. This is the time for the finalists to debate the very question at the core of the family hierarch evaluation. Jiaqiu considered those words, and Yi Sang understood that they're meant to engage in dialogue. Jiahuan didn't give a finding this hilarious, asking if they've had enough of the bloodshed, asking if they should end that game with a sophisticated little confabulation of on the sanctimonious virtues instead, mocking them by asking if they could put a bow on it. The host continued by saying if the opponent accepts your argument, perhaps you could indeed flex your rhetorical muscles and finish the second round with a parley of words, asking if they'd not like to know what happens if you can't. Absolutely nothing! Simply return to what you've been doing that entire event. Take or be taken. Grab as many coins as you can. It's up to you. Dante saw that if either of their opponents decides to attack them anyway, they'll have no choice but to fight them. Dante asked, what now? They considered Jiaqiu. He only wordlessly gazed at the writings on the wall. And Honglu asked, what now? Asking this casually. Dante considered that for them to come second, at least one of them had to be eliminated. Faust knew that forfeiting now would place them in third. Then she remembered that outside that room there are other candidates who have collected a similar amount of coins as they have, along with other coins, the sum of which is greater than what they had. She saw it as a small variable, but, well, it was a risk. Ishmael pointed out that only one other clan besides theirs was aware of the Golden Bar, and it was ranked higher than them. Urtis added that they're not only aware of it, but it's why they're likely participating in that game. They might as well have obtained it if they forfeit it. Well, forfeit now. The ideal situation is for Jiaqu to eliminate N-Corp's forces now. Take their coins and eliminate them from the game. But, well, she's angered by not knowing what he's thinking, as this prevents her from correctly strategizing. Dante didn't see this as boding well. Gregor saw Jiaqu as not much of a talker, preferring to destroy his way to success than to talk things out. Yet, after a pause, Jiaqu defied Gregor's expectations, as they gave them a platform to parley, so that's what they'll do. This surprised Dante, along with the others. Even Jiahuan, who saw this as unexpected, asking him if he's going to play along with this meaningless game, asking if the long years away from Hongguan must have been quite smooth sailing for him. Jiaqu confirmed this to be the case, even though it was full of loneliness and impecuniosity. He was deprived of those who would stand with him, for he was wanting in the fortune with matter of people. Which was why he sought out the new, embraced them, and learned much. Jahan didn't know who he could have met and learned out there, but his ambitions have certainly been inflated by his estimation. Apparently he met Wang Zhao on the way there. He was quite clever, and sitting alone without coins, waiting for his elimination to be confirmed, asking what he said to him then. That he had already given all of his coins to the one that should have them. He's already achieved his victory in that game by giving the coins to the one who deserves them the most before anyone who does not could claim them. He wanted to cut his head off for that, but the Haishu protected him before he was able to do so, asking why would he seek an alliance with the Wang family now. Jiaqu saw this as lofty praising for what it was. He merely discerned what he deemed to be good and promised that he would make it so. Jiahuan spoke of what is good. What could he possibly have, after having essentially severed himself from Daiyuan Yuan for years, to offer him that which the Wang family didn't already have? He then agreed to play this game for now. If he has something to say, he can say it. Leaning against the wall, with a sarcastic grin on his face, Jiaqu then got on with it, clearly seeing that if he's going to fight, he has to be sure it's for the right reasons. He considered this. To ask one to state the virtue of the family hierarch is to ask one to state what it is that Hongguan, soon to be under the lordship of a new hierarch, needs the most. He saw only two kinds of people that he was raised in that vast yet confined room they called Hongguan. Those who kill and those who die. To resolve this vile distinction, to restore to the righteous path this land's trajectory of history, dyed crimson with the blood spilled in the name of their selfish avarice. They need two virtues, humanity and propriety. Humanity, likely meaning acting beyond base desires and propriety, is, well, conformity to acceptable standards or morals. Both of those lacking in any part of the city, never mind Hongguan. This was certainly in the case of Jia Huan, who saw that as meaningless, as people who clamber around every restructuring day to secure just enough room for them to live, have any care left to give about either of those pretentious virtues. He sees that Hongguan, what it needs is simple and pragmatic, the power to dominate, and the administrative efficacy to wield it, not to mention the ability to maintain upward constant growth of technological innovation to keep up with the other wings. In other words, what Jia Mu has been doing. As in, being just another wing executive, dominating all under you, believing in the myth of perpetual growth. Which is part of all that is wrong with that world. Dante saw that unlike the other two, who seemed to be, to be more engaged in that debate than expected, Honglu maintained an aloof silence, as though it had no interest to him. This didn't sit well with Jia Qiu, who turned to Honglu, who told him to speak, to dare speak his mind. What does Hong Yuan need? Honglu was silent. Jia Huan then mocks this, telling Jia Qiu not to treat him as though he's on the same scale on which they operate. He doesn't even know what he needs, never mind what Hongguan needs. Seeing this is a waste of time. He doesn't even possess the smallest amount of ambition, nor the heart to speak meaninglessly about his purposes. Honglu agreed with him. How can someone like him even dream of participating in such a grand discussion of causes? This wasn't good enough to Jia Qiu. He won't formulate his judgment on him based on a conclusion that Jia Huan or anyone else in Hongguan has drawn. They will be heard indeed, but his ways forge only by the answers that spring from his own deliberations, telling Honglu not to allow the judgment of others to guide his tongue. In simple terms, he's telling him to speak for himself. This took Honglu aback as he looked to the ground before looking up at Jia Qiu. Honglu saw it as much more productive of him to tell him more on his thoughts. Jia Huan saw this as pathetic. Zilu saw this fatuous reply to Jia Qiu's question as a signifier of a lack of vision to perceive the grand picture. This he flipped off, saying that this isn't even the kind of question that you can just give an answer for, telling him to give him time to... Zilu asked him if he still fails to realize which of them wields the sharpest blade, seeing it as a shame that he doesn't understand the significance of the powerful choosing to engage in rhetoric over crushing others with sheer might in times of chaos. Jia Qiu told her that was enough. So he asked Honglu again, what virtue must the Hierarch possess? What does Hongguan need the most? Dante saw that for a split second. Honglu's lips parted. Then we see him trying to save those that were falling on that restructuring day. Along with Jia Qiu observing this, although not knowing why. Sadly, Dante observed that he soon shut his mouth again, as if this was an illusion, where he claimed to not have an idea of what answer he's looking for from him. Jia Qiu saw this as a self-deception, telling him that this was his first act of goodwill towards him, and quite possibly the final opportunity that he might be able to afford him. Will he disregard it regardless, blinded to its significance? Honglu understood that he must be anticipating something from him. Jia Qiu didn't see it that way, as in, impotent anticipation begets nothing but despair in the face of futility, leaving nothing but a hollow heart in its wake. Even still, he grants him his valuable time for that slim possibility that he saw something within him. That which was there when he was 10 years old. By doing so, he risked delaying everything that he had prepared for a long time. Yet, he still evades his every query. Then, straight out of some Super Sentai type, his Haishu appeared. All that's needed is, well, to complete this, are some stupid poses and a pointless explosion behind them. He then took out a staff with wrappings around it. He was clearly annoyed, telling him to swallow his words when it is his turn to speak, is to hide them. As he insists on stopping and veiling his thoughts, he's forced to act in a manner unbecoming of a noble man, seeing that he has to dabble in Zilu's methods. Zilu understood. Jia Qiu won't allow Honglu to mask his ruminations, telling him to bring forth a real answer, not to hide it behind his tongue. Clearly he wants an honest answer from Honglu, and he won't take silence, or even agreeing with others, as a valid one. It has to be an honest answer from Honglu, or it's not good enough. Now, Wave 1, that's when Haishu Pack were formed, the Mao branch to be more precise. They operated much as they did previously, relying on rupture and speed, although they gain haste when their counter is up, and if Honglu is dead, it's all over. Where if they're faster by 3, they have more coin power, and if the clash is lost, they gain 2 bind. They're also weak to blunt this time, but strong against slash, an inversion of the last time they were fought. When Wave 2 is reached, that's when Jia Qiu and Zilu appear, and it was clear that Zilu was holding back in the last battle against her, as not only does she has her attacks from the last time, she also uses an incomplete seal release of her Tianju Star's Blade, which is unbreakable, which gains up to 60% more damage for every 2 speed difference between her. And the target, yes, between her and the target, and gains coin and clash power depending on the rupture of the target, and can inflict death right fissure. She also has 2 different defensive measures, a block that gains cloud splitting defense, yes, cloud splitting, gaining 1 defense level for every 5% HP that has been cumulatively lost, and can't be staggered until the block ends. The cloud splitting manifestation being similar to the incomplete seal release of the Tianju Star's Blade in terms of its capabilities. Zilu heals 30%, well, not 30%, 30 SP at the turn start, where she shifts her attack pattern at 85% HP, which is the Tianju Star's Blade. She gains 1 bind each time she loses a clash, up to 6. As for Jia Qiu, it's clear that he's manifested his own EGO, called Ali, and gained a form of enlightenment on his travels, which means that he either won the debate with Carmen, basically told her to go herself, or Carmen knew that it would be pointless to even try and convince him to see things her way. Although, not because he's a psychotic like Ahab was. His staff grants him the power to rupture his enemies and increases his power depending on the rupture on the target. This even extends to his counter. Some attacks can even bind. He likely learned Deathrite from Zelu, based on 2 attacks dealing that. One that binds when the target is rupture, one that lowers offense level. At the start of the battle, 30 SP is gained and Sliver of Anticipation is gained, reducing his base offense and defense level by 35 and dealing 30% more damage with unopposed attacks, implying that he was seriously holding back. He deals 5 SP for every Deathrite on the target. Yes, 5 SP damage and gains clash power for every 4 negative effects on the target, dealing 10% more damage against those with Deathrite, halts, and 20% less damage is taken from those with Deathrite impede. He's weak to lust, gluttony, and pride, but strong against sloth, gloom, and physical. And this is only phase 1. When Jakyu was at 60% HP, he didn't give them even a moment to catch their breath. The unrelenting storm of strikes pummeled them, but he didn't seem at all winded by their efforts. But Dante could tell that he didn't intend to kill. He was holding back just enough for his purposes. Jakyu awaited Honglu's answer, but it seemed like his patience was running low. Jahan told him that if he's going to toy with them, he should hit them harder. He'd love to watch him tear his useless head from his torso. Jakyu paid no heed to his snide remarks, only looking down on Honglu, who was still trying to catch his breath. Jakyu understood they still had no answers. Honglu struggled to speak, and Dante saw that his eyes were wandering, where he said that what Hongguan needed. He was unable to finish that sentence. Jiahuan told him not to pretend like he's ruminating upon some great secret of the world. None of that mattered to him. Hongguan, Hierarch, why should any of that matter when all he cared about was a singular thing? He wanted someone to end his life, to cut off his head. No. Jiahuan, as you're calling yourself now, that is what you want. He also believes that he doesn't possess the courage to do the deed himself, nor does he have the persistence to struggle on. Okay, how about you stop telling him what he's going to think, as if by naming his opinion in advance he'll be unable to alter it. Jiahuan sees this as true greed. I see it as straw nihilism. Then we saw the one that would become Jiahuan, asking why didn't Jia Bayu save him? Then he asked a different question. Why did he save her and only her? Referring to Lin Dayu, as she was supposed to be there at the event with the Kong family, but instead she was alone, found hiding in some shed far from that building. Jia Biu was silent, but we know why this was the case. We know that he tried to save others, but they either didn't listen to him or were offended. Only Lin Dayu listened to him, and that's why she survived. He spoke of Jia Huan, the recently killed half-brother of Jia Baiyu. How he always envied him, and he knew that where his future in Dagyuan Yuan was more precious than anything that he could have ever done, anything he could have ever been, more than that dull, meaningless life that he clung to. Jia Baiyu argued that his life wasn't dull, but he'd preferred it to be, compared to the reality of it. But he didn't say this to the one who had become Jia Huan. All Jia Baiyu could say that was that humans die. It's what they're born to do, where it's naive to wish for an eternal blossom, because everything that blooms is destined to wilt away. This only deepened his resentment, which persisted to this day, at least 12 years later. Then Honglu stopped himself. This reemergence of this memory put his reply to sleep. Yes, this reemergence made him still and silent. The familiar, aloof and cloud-like words filled the vacuum. Honglu told him that even if an answer to his question exists, what meaning would it have? In their lives, they are but sparks that go out in the blink of an eye. What meaning would all of that suffering, happiness, pain, and sorrow have? They'll all float away with the flow anyway. He said that if Hong Yuan needs anything, it might need to find something like contentment in poverty and the joy of making principles. To not desire more, nor to discard what is given, and instead, to simply and fully accept the present, seeing that as the remorseless path to true inner peace. Jia Q summarized this as, even in poverty-stricken lives, if one finds contentment with what is given to them, they will find inner peace. And Jia Q doubts the truthfulness of this word. Well, the truthfulness of these words is he doesn't know poverty. If he knew true poverty, he'd also know that it's not something to be uttered so lightly with that smile of his. None in Dagyuan Yuan deserved to discuss it in the manner that he did. This wasn't a real answer to Jia Q. And Radia couldn't deny this, speaking from personal experience due to her own experience of poverty in District 25, telling him that he just wants them to accept what's given to them. That it is what it is. That's too wretched and pathetic to the poor. Dante had nothing to say that could either confirm or dispute this, all while a shadow drew over Jia Q's expression, as though he observed the time slipping through Honglu's fingers. He remains patient. He's waiting for a reply that he thought that Honglu must righteously give. He asks again, what does Hongyuan need? What does its people need? Those who are too busy dying, living, persisting, breathing. Honglu considered what it needed, then the silence grew. Then we saw a vision of the past where he told Lin Dayu that he was leaving Dagyuan Yuan. After all those years, he keeps his silence to the final moments of his departure. Not even a hint of an answer about that day. She paused before asking why. Why won't he stop smiling like that? She believed that she saw why. He buried it all. She hoped that he'd never come back there again, because he not only abandoned her, but also Dagyuan Yuan and Hongyuan. This memory prevented him from speaking, like the last one. The lonely smile returned, one that had seen far too many things that they care about floating away, Honglu believed that Hongyuan needed a long life expectancy, fortune and health in both body and spirit. Wouldn't it be nice to live a long, fortunate life, free from the iniquities of the world? From the beginning to the end of your existence. Jiaqu saw he saw through these hollow, worthless lies in place of the truth, telling him to let out his truth. That is what he wished to hear. To be content with what is given to us, to live a long life unburdened by sickness and worry on account of iniquities, they may both be answers. If they were truly replies from the fathoms of his heart, he would have accepted them and thereby draw his own conclusions. He then twirled his Ichio's staff and readied himself for more fighting. He told him that he is yet to hear his answer. The answer hiding in the shadows of his hesitation. The answer that he's buried deep within. Honglu was unable to answer. Zilu implied that she didn't seem to think that he was worth the effort. Jiaqu ordered her to withdraw, seeing that a brutal winter must come before he can estimate the green within him. Then he twirled his staff and made a fiery explosion happen, telling Honglu to reflect upon himself, exhume his humanity, his righteous deep within. And after that pointless explosion behind him, he continued to fight, this time without Zilu, understanding that more effort is needed to beat the answer out of him, as it seems more likely to get a straight answer out of a career politician that is read up on Niccolo Machiavelli than to get one out of Honglu. Phase 2 was much the same, except with more unbreakable attacks. These heal 10 SP. He also has a fixed target attack that focuses on the one with the most death rate and deals more damage depending on the rupture of the target. One attacks Honglu, or at least tries to, prioritizing him, which on top of damage and rupture, inflicts dialogues, which heals 5 SP, and if HP drops to 0, he's healed to max. His Tiangang Star form attack focuses on Honglu, which weakens for every dialogue on Honglu, and if it loses, stagger doesn't happen, and he gains 24 defense level down for the rest of the battle. And the attack is only half as effective. There's also an attack that focuses on those that aren't Honglu, where the Haishu pack appears and staggers all but Honglu, and if Honglu is dead, it's all over. Although Jiaqu starts phase 2 with half of any negative status effects that was there in phase 1. And Honglu, with dialogues, reduces his shield up to nothing if he has 3 or more. He gains coin power with 3 or more death rights on the target. When Jiaqu is at 50% HP, that's when the battle ends. After that lengthy battle, Jia Huan found that bitterly amusing. Yes, bitterly amusing and letting out a frustrated sigh, seeing this as an unbearable and vain exchange. As he said earlier, what Hongyuan needs is a realist at its helm, who knows how to pursue practical interests. How do none of them understand that? There's nothing more, nothing less to that. Those who are busy living and dying need their immediate and tangible interests to be fulfilled. It doesn't matter if they're delusions or fantasies. All they need is for someone or something to enable them to visualize and witness their desires and dreams. That's all there is to it. And you call Jiaqu pretentious. That's basically more of the same. Jamu is also a realist. She looks towards Hongguan. She looks at the suffering and simply doesn't care. She only cares about her desires and dreams. What you're talking about, Jiahuan, is stagnation. Don Quixote saw this as an insult to dreams, and she made no desire to hide her disdain for him because of his words. Yisang saw that as Jiaqiu completed that sentence with "not correct," saying that while Jiahuan's way is sound in reason, it's hollow. Honglu thought about it and asked if he would say that he walked the way of humanity and righteousness. Jiaqiu asked him what did he see? What shape did his way take in his eyes? He saw further, burning like fire, melting many things away with its warmth. Jiaqiu understood that was what Honglu saw. Honglu asked if he indeed walks the way of humanity and righteousness. Then what does it mean to be virtuous? Jiaqiu told him that he said it himself. Years of fell deeds have shaped the valleys that devoured humanity. People have accepted the broken, iniquitous establishment as reason, as part of immutable nature, and that's in that malformed existence, their hearts were cooled and hardened, but benevolence, the true humanity and righteousness, is what softened the calcified hearts. Honglu had nothing to say about that. Jiaqiu told him that Dagyuan Yuan demanded his silence, to not ask about that day, to not learn more about that day. It was simply the consequences of the forbidden avarice, pitiful yet deserved. Jiaqiu observed that Honglu wasn't the only one who was forced to let everything float away. The difference was, he, Jiaqiu, never let go. Honglu told him that there was nothing but an infinite bottomless darkness. All he could think of was that he wanted someone to hold him and tell him that it was all going to be okay. The elders could be stern from time to time, but they cared for him more than anyone else in Dagyuan Yuan did. Well, considering that Jiamu is a functional psychopath, I question the sincerity of that care. In the past, not long after the annihilation of the Kong family, she told him to enter now. The revered Xianren awaited. He wanted to let it all out, all of it, everything that he witnessed, but never should have been made to. Then we hear the ecstatic screeching of an eldritch being, the echoing hatred of the dying and the dead, the wailing universe, laughing, shouting, screaming. Then nothing. He didn't think that after that day anything good would happen to him ever again. It's the moment that would wake him up every morning, every night. It will drag him to sleep. He wanted someone to comfort him, someone to tell him that everything would be okay, that he doesn't have to be scared anymore. Then the elders welcomed him. Where they had not watched anything as exhilarating as that sight in centuries, the beginning was the most enjoyable part. The one that pathetically clung to life, scrambling away from the chaos in spite of his twisted ankle. It was truly fascinating how a mere crawling human could be so engaging to watch. Another asked if they saw the contortion of the mother's face when she saw the creature from her womb. Madness took her swiftly. They saw the finale as dramatic, to watch the claws arrive just in time. They exceeded their expectations indeed, leaving quite literally nothing behind. It was just as they heard, seeing it as a most heavenly offering. Yeah, heavenly. More like hellish, considering the untold death and pain that they brought. They shall reminisce it to sustain their amusement for months to come with that rare gift of his. Yeah, I have a suspicion that Hong Lu was the one that provided the information without even being aware of it. Seeing him as their most precious jade, it shined like a mirror and a window that reflects to them what lies beyond the iron threshold of the Taikan Temple, telling him to persevere, to cleanse and to shine his light. Ensure that its glint is unmarred by cloudiness. So that was what the bolus was for. Yes, the one that was given to the infant Jabayu. It somehow allows the elders to see through that eye. Which was why Jamu forced him to watch so many horrific things, all to provide entertainment for the elders, who have likely lived for centuries. They might have been there when the city was founded, and even witnessed events like the machine purge that resulted in AI that could pass for human being outlawed, and even the Blood Fiend War. They had conquered aging and death, but one thing that they were unable to conquer, without help, was boredom. Which means that they watched the damn dozen... Yes, they have watched them for the past year. They probably got plenty of amusement from their misadventures. In a different point in the past, likely before Jabayu's self-imposed isolation, he, Lin Dayu, and the real Jiahuan were flying kites. Lin Dayu asked, what was he doing? His kite was flying away, telling him to catch it. He asked, and do what? Let it float away to wherever the wind takes it. Then we see a small field, where Jabayu made a burial of flower petals. He collected the petals and blossoms in his flower pouch and gave them a pretty burial. That way, even when they return to dust, they'll still be clear like they were never there. Now that he's buried them, he found himself freed from the suffocating endless flood of colors. Only then could he smile. That was the day he was broken inside. Jiaqu saw that he abandoned his way in Dagyuan Yuan, but his way of his learned beyond Dagyuan Yuan's hedges. It taught him patience. It gave him peace. Seeing desire bereft of humanity, and righteousness begets only self-immolation. As in what Carmen saw humanity was walking a path down. Why she started the Seed of Light project. He also saw desire guided by adherence to the way maintains its embers. If fire doesn't rise to meet the darkness upon its descent, all roads shall converge on the path with nothing but Nahirti in its accumulation. Honglu said nothing about this. Jiaqu asked what lies within, what has slumbered, nested within him all those years. Honglu told him that he buried it all on the same day the peach blossoms, which are similar to cherry blossoms but are a different species, whirled like a gale. Honglu looked at him when answering this. Jiaqiu spoke after a brief pause, saying that only he entered the crater, the only one who may lift himself out of its depths. Then Honglu answered by saying what Hong Yuan needs, remembering his past when Jiamu told him that he can't save everyone. When he knew that, but he wanted to save at least one person who's about to fall. Back in the present, he finished that sentence by saying, "It's kindness. To be kind is to care about one another, to embrace those who suffer. It is to cry alongside a grieving friend. It is to join in laughter when they are elated with joy. It needs the warmth of kindness and gentleness." Honglu, you are too nice and innocent for that grim, dark world. One that has embraced ultra-capitalism and social Darwinism. Jiaqiu paused for a few seconds and then told him that his words flow like a vast, unwinding river that wishes to bring all of existence into its gentle embrace. Yet kindness alone, while it may illuminate those who surround him, will never be enough to embrace all of those who need it. He also saw it as unbecoming of the Lord of Hongguan to weep and guffaw at such little, insignificant things. Honglu disputed that, his voice carrying more confidence than it did before, who he used to be servicing at least long enough to continue this debate, where he told Jiaqiu that if people can see, feel and share the same sorrow and joy they see in others, and if that moves them to hold one another, even if it's just one other person, everyone can be moved to embrace someone, to share the warmth of a fellow human, even if he can't hope to hold them all by himself. After another pause, Jiaqiu saw that answer as quite lacking given all the time he granted him. But it suffices. In Nihility, everything becomes consumed by the monotonous grey meaninglessness, but an empty canvas can be painted anew. Jia Huan was less than impressed, asking if he's been waiting and prodding all this time for those wishy-washy platitudes. He didn't understand, believing that this drivel couldn't be farther from what it meant to rule, believing that kindness can't give people the satisfaction that they desire. No kindness has ever saved any lives, nor did it fill a starving stomach ever. Hongguan can't be changed by such foolish flights of fancy. You're right. It can't. Not by itself. But action driven by kindness can. Jiaqiu told Jia Huan that he need only walk the path of his own choosing. In that room, he shall pursue his own idea of true humanity, with clarity without a moment's hesitation. Then Jia Huan asked, what was he doing? Jiaqiu told him that it meant that he, after doing something, would forfeit the family Hierarch Evaluation. This not only surprised the host, but Dante as well. Jia Huan was bemused by this. Jiaqiu believed that only Jia Bayu and his clan must remain. Should he choose to forgo the same choice that he's about to make, then he should prepare to spill much blood. He figured out that the throne of the family hierarch wasn't what he was there to seek. Jia Huan's laughter confirmed his suspicion. His goal was far beyond that insignificant squabble surrounding who becomes the next hierarch of Hongguan. He didn't appreciate being told what to do by someone who presumes that he has some sort of control over him. He wasn't. He was just providing a warning. It's your decision to heed it or not. Jiaqiu sees Jia Huan for what he is. Beneath his mask of unscrupulousness and temperamentality, He's someone who perceives nothing but the extremes of reason and logic, which is something that can be just as destructive as extremes of passion and raw emotion. He believed that his reason would lead him to forfeit there as well. Jia Huan saw them both as disgusting hypocrites. That stench followed them both and haunted every meaningless, convoluted word born from their deceit. Says the one who stole the name of Honglu's dead half-brother. He then told Gubo that they're leaving. He'll forfeit as well. He's collected more than enough coins. Then Honglu asked about Jiaqu. He saw him like a tuft of cloud, floating high above in the heavens, which doesn't bring suffering to trees, to earth, to anything. It's not a force that tramples, he walks past them, making his way towards the exit of the room, but added that clouds can't do more than that, to embrace a fellow human, as defined by the shape of humanity and righteousness he spoke of. He must walk the earth with his own feet as a human, not float as a lofty tuft of cloud. Advising that he minds this as he walks his own path. He then unfastened the rope from his waist and handed over his coins to Honglu, a much greater amount than what they've been able to collect so far. Ishmael asked why. Honglu likely understood why. But he wasn't talking, neither was Jiaqu as he left the room. The host then announced that Jia Huan and Jiaqu have been eliminated by forfeiture. This troubled Roger, as this meant that Honglu was in first place. Heathcliff didn't see the problem. He'd rather come in first than second. Ishmael saw the problem as they're there to pick up the golden bar from the treasury, not seat Honglu on the throne of the family hierarch. As the others were scrambling over what to do about this, Sinclair reminded them of one who was still trying to become the family hierarch. She still hadn't given up. Then the host told them that they all have a good picture of who's going to be their next hierarch. Only 10 minutes remain until the evaluation is complete. Dante then had an idea and asked if they had the same idea. I certainly do. And it was likely the plan that they had all along, although not quite as they originally planned. Sometime later at our Jingguan banquet hall, Jia Wanchun announced that the family hierarch evaluation had come to an end. She extended her admiration and congratulations to every candidate in their clans for their participation, an exemplary participation in that event. Jia Sichun was surprised by something, asking if it's actually happening, asking for confirmation. Jia Wanchun implored upon all those present to accept this sacred outcome with grace. The victor will first descend into the Taikan temple and pay their respects to their revered elders. Then, upon returning to the surface, they will march to the first floor of Daiguan Yuan and assume the seat of the family hierarch of Hongguan. Roger was still trying to understand how they actually got there. Jia Wanchun then spoke of the final results of that family hierarch evaluation. Third place was Jia Huan. Wei asked her to please compose herself, nervous that there are many eyes. She has a certain dignity to uphold. Jia Wanchun then said second place was Jia Bayu. Yi Sang then asked Honglu why did Jiaqu do such a thing. Honglu didn't know. Jia Sichun wanted to know what they were talking about. Gregor thought that it ended well. That wasn't what she meant. She asked, why her? Why would she? Then Jia Wanchun announced the first place, their next venerable hierarch and the final victor of the family hierarch evaluation. First place was Jia Zichun, who was struggling to speak. She questioningly asked if she's really the next hierarch. The hushed silence showed how little any of them saw this coming. She was dumbfounded, still processing this. Dante had no idea what Honglu was looking at. That's how the family hierarch war came to a close. I suspect that if two candidates had an equal amount of coins and the time ran out, the host would either tell them to fight each other until one took the coins of the other, or they have a rule that in the event of a tie, the winner would be the one who had eliminated the most candidates. Extremely unlikely, I know, but it's certainly a possibility. It might seem like the end, but there's still Act 3 to go through. Until next time, hail the rabbit!